The medical bay doors hissed open, and Dr. Sarah Chun stepped through with the kind of smile that reached her eyes. The waiting area erupted into chaos immediately. For Crevathy cubs, each no bigger than a terrier but covered in silver-blue fur that bristled with emotion, launched themselves toward her with excited chirping sounds that echoed through the sterile corridors of the ISS Harmony. Sarah dropped to one knee, her white medical coat billowing around her as she opened her arms. The cubs collided with her in a tumbling mass of warmth and energy, their six-legged bodies scrambling for purchase as they tried to climb up her shoulders, arms, and lap all at once. Their crystalline eyes, three on each side of their elongated faces, blinked in patterns that Sarah had learned to read as pure joy. "Easy, easy," she laughed, the sound genuine and warm as she ran her hands through their soft fur. The cubs vibrated with a purring sound that resonated in their small chests, a frequency that humans could feel more than hear. "Yes, I missed you too. Yes, all of you." The largest cub, whom Sarah had privately named Luna, pressed her flat snout against Sarah's cheek in what the Crevathy considered an intimate gesture of affection. The other three, Spark, Mist, and Shadow, competed for space in her arms, their delicate paws kneading against her shoulders and legs in contentment. Commander Pavel Rostov stood near the observation window, his arms crossed over his broad chest as he watched the reunion with an expression that mixed amusement with concern. His weathered face, marked by years of deep space assignments, softened slightly as Sarah looked up at him with that radiant smile still in place. "The surgery went well, I take it?" Pavel asked, though the answer was obvious from the celebration happening at his feet. "Perfectly," Sarah replied, gently untangling Shadow from where he had somehow wrapped himself around her neck like a scarf. "Rasha is stable, responding well to the neural regeneration therapy, and her vital signs are stronger than they've been in months. She should be conscious within the next few hours." The cubs' chirping intensified at the mention of their mother's name. Spark, the smallest and most energetic of the group, began bouncing in place, his excitement making his fur stand on end like he'd been statically charged. Sarah reached out to smooth down his coat with practiced fingers. "Can we see her?" The question came from Delegate Kresh, the Crevathy ambassador who had been standing quietly in the corner of the waiting area. His adult frame stood nearly 7 feet tall on his 6 powerful legs, his diplomatic robes shimmering with colors that shifted based on his emotional state. Currently, they rippled with cautious hope mixed with relief. Sarah stood carefully, mindful of the cubs still clinging to various parts of her body. Luna had positioned herself across Sarah's shoulders like a living stole, while the others had settled into the crooks of her arms. Their weight was comforting, familiar after the 3 months she'd spent caring for them while their mother fought for her life. "She needs a few more hours of recovery," Sarah explained, her voice taking on the gentle but firm tone she used when delivering medical news. "The surgery was complex. We had to repair extensive damage to her primary neural cluster while simultaneously removing the contaminated tissue from the mining accident. Pushing her system too fast could compromise the regeneration process." Kresh's ear membranes fluttered in what Sarah had learned was the Crevathy equivalent of a nod. His crystalline eyes fixed on Sarah with an intensity that would have been unsettling if she hadn't spent so much time among his species. "You have performed what 3 Crevathy neural surgeons declared impossible, Dr. Chun," Kresh said, his voice carrying a harmonic quality that made universal translator chips work over time. "The cubs sensed their mother would survive the moment you emerge from surgery. They are rarely wrong about such things." Sarah glanced down at the 4 small beings currently draped across her body. Cubs, she had learned, possessed an empathic sensitivity that adults gradually lost as they matured. They could sense emotional states, life forces, and intentions with an accuracy that bordered on telepathy. For the past 3 months, they had been attuned to both their mother's declining condition and Sarah's determination to save her. "Science, not miracles," Sarah said, though her smile softened the correction. "Though I'll admit, Human surgical techniques, combined with Krevithy regenerative medicine, created possibilities neither of our species had explored before. Pavel stepped forward, his boots clicking against the deck plating. The Council wants a full report, Sarah. The successful integration of cross-species medical protocols is going to have implications far beyond this one patient. Let her breathe, Commander, came a new voice from the corridor. Dr. Marcus Webb, Sarah's colleague, and the station's xenobiology specialist, approached with 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offered one to Sarah, who accepted it gratefully despite having cubs occupying both arms. Luna helpfully adjusted her position so Sarah could bring the cup to her lips. The galaxy can wait a few hours for paperwork, Marcus continued, settling into one of the waiting area chairs with a groan. His dark skin glistened with sweat, evidence that he'd just come from the gym section. Sarah's been in surgery for 14 hours straight. She's earned a break. 12 hours, Sarah corrected automatically, then took a long sip of coffee. The cubs had gone still across her body, their purring creating a soothing vibration that seemed to seep into her bones. And I'm fine. Tired but fine. You're swaying on your feet, Marcus observed with the bluntness of someone who'd known Sarah since their academy days. When's the last time you slept? Sarah opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again as she actually tried to remember. The cubs chittered softly, and she felt Luna's paw gently pat her cheek, as if the cub was also concerned about her well-being. Before yesterday's planning session, Pavel said, answering for her, which means approximately 38 hours ago. Dr. Chun, I'm ordering you to your quarters for rest. I need to monitor Rasha's. I'll monitor Rasha, Marcus interrupted, standing and setting his coffee aside. I've been her secondary physician for months. I know her baseline readings as well as you do. You've done the impossible part. Let me handle the routine part. The cubs began to stir, their chirping taking on a questioning tone. Shadow, perched in Sarah's left arm, looked up at her with all 6 of his crystalline eyes blinking in a pattern that Sarah had learned meant concern. The cubs should stay with their mother, Kresh interjected, though his tone suggested he was open to alternatives. It is customary for them to be present when she wakes. Rasha won't be conscious for at least 4 hours, Sarah said, her medical brain overriding her exhaustion. The cubs have been in this waiting area for most of the day. They need exercise, proper food, and some semblance of normal routine. She looked down at the 4 small faces turned up toward her. And I promised them that if the surgery went well, we'd visit the observation deck to watch the nebula. The cubs erupted into excited chirping at the mention of the observation deck. It had become their favorite place on the station, a vast room with transparent aluminum walls that offered a 360-degree view of the cosmos. For creatures whose home world orbited a binary star system, the sight of the Crimson and Gold Veil Nebula was endlessly fascinating. Observation deck, then quarters, Pavel said, his tone making it clear this was a command, not a suggestion. I'll have the cafeteria send something to your room. You will eat, you will rest, and you will not return to medical bay until you've had at least 8 hours of sleep. Sarah wanted to argue, but the weight of the cubs, combined with the exhaustion finally catching up to her, made the prospect of sleep suddenly very appealing. Luna nuzzled against her ear, making a soft trilling sound that seemed to say she agreed with the commander. Fine, Sara conceded. Observation deck, dinner, sleep. But I want updates every hour on Rasha's condition. Every 2 hours, Marcus countered. I know you, Sarah. Every hour means you won't actually sleep. They compromised on updates every 90 minutes, and then Sarah was moving through the corridors of the ISS Harmony with 4 Krevithy cubs distributed across her body like very affectionate accessories. Luna remained on her shoulders, Spark and Mist had settled into being carried like human babies, one in each arm, and Shadow had discovered he could ride in the large pocket of her medical coat. The station bustled with activity as third shift transitioned to fourth. Crew members from a dozen different species moved through the corridors, each engaged in the countless tasks required to keep a deep space research station operational. Sarah received nods, waves, and several knowing smiles as she passed. The sight of the human doctor covered in crevathy cubs had become familiar over the past months. Dr. Chun, a young ensign, human and fresh from Earth based on his pale complexion and wide-eyed wonder at everything, jogged up to her. Is it true? Did the surgery work? Everyone's been talking about it. Ensign Torres, isn't it? Sarah asked, dredging up the memory from her exhausted brain. Yes, the surgery was successful. Rasha should make a full recovery. Torres' face split into a grin. That's incredible. My sister is studying xenomedicine back on Earth. When I tell her the human doctors are successfully performing neural surgery on crevathy patients, she's going to lose her mind. The cubs chittered at his enthusiasm, and Spark reached out a paw toward the young ensign in a friendly gesture. Torres looked at Sarah questioningly, and she nodded permission. He carefully extended his finger, and Spark wrapped his tiny digits around it, his purring intensifying. They're so small, Torres said with wonder. I've seen adult crevathy, but seeing the cubs like this so trusting and affectionate with a human, it makes everything we're doing out here feel real, you know? Sarah smiled, understanding exactly what he meant. The ISS Harmony was more than just a research station. It was humanity's first major collaborative effort with multiple alien species, a floating city where different biologies, cultures, and philosophies learned to coexist. Moments like this, small interactions between species that had only known of each other's existence for 5 years, represented the hope that had drawn Sarah into deep space medicine in the first place. How are you adjusting to the station? Sarah asked, genuinely curious despite her exhaustion. It's overwhelming, Torres admitted, but in a good way. I grew up reading about First Contact, watching the footage of the crevathy delegation arriving on Earth. Being here, actually working alongside them, and the Vorlesh and the Tarn, it's surreal. Wait until you experience your first multi-species festival, Sarah said with a laugh. The crevathy celebrate the alignment of their binary suns every 37 local days. The parties are memorable. They chatted for another minute before Torres excused himself to return to his duties. Sarah continued toward the observation deck, the cubs having settled into a comfortable doze across her body. Their trust, their complete and unreserved affection, never failed to move her. The observation deck doors opened with a whisper of hydraulics, revealing the vast chamber beyond. Sarah stepped inside and felt her breath catch, as it always did. The Veil Nebula dominated the view, a cosmic tapestry of crimson, gold, and deep purple that stretched across the heavens. Stars glittered like diamonds scattered across velvet, and in the distance, the twin suns of the crevathy home system burned with steady light. The cubs stirred, their eyes opening and reflecting the nebula's colors. They chirped softly, the sound reverent and filled with wonder. Sarah moved to the center of the chamber and slowly lowered herself to sit cross-legged on the deck. The cubs immediately scrambled off her body, positioning themselves in a semicircle facing the nebula. For several minutes, they simply watched in silence. The cubs had a ritual they performed each time they visited.